When you hear the word Uncharted, it no doubt conjures up thoughts of Naughty Dog's epic PlayStation 3 exclusive trilogy. The adventures of Nathan Drake are officially the stuff of PlayStation legend, and when Sony Bend got in on the act with the Vita launch title Uncharted Golden Abyss, they continued the trend, making a game, in my estimation, even better than Uncharted Drake's Fortune. Now, Sony Bend's at it again, but with an Uncharted game you may not expect. Welcome to the world of Fight for Fortune, a cheap customizable card game where tactics and careful thought, rather than gunplay, are what's important. For a $5 downloadable game, Uncharted Fight for Fortune looks just fine. The load times are a little ridiculous, especially when starting the game up or navigating some of the menus, but such issues never affect the actual gameplay, which is what's most important. As Fight for Fortune is a completely static game that hinges on card battles, you won't find amazing animations or brilliant cinematics like you did in the Uncharted trilogy or in Golden Abyss. What you will still find is a surprisingly vivid color palette that differentiates various cards and card types, making the game surprisingly easy to navigate. The game's a little bland and static otherwise, but when considering what you're paying for the game and what the game actually is at its core, that's not exactly a bad thing. Now, just because you're an Uncharted fan doesn't mean Fight for Fortune will be your cup of tea. It's entirely influenced by the Uncharted universe Naughty Dog has so artfully created without utilizing anything that's familiar in terms of core gameplay. But admittedly, that's part of Fight for Fortune's charm. It's a bona fide spin-off, and a fairly bold and well thought out one at that. As a customizable card game, Fight for Fortune is easy to understand. It seems daunting at first until the game's tutorial boils everything down for you. The game basically takes place in phases, with each player getting a turn. You start by choosing a card out of 3 factions to place in one of 5 card slots. This is followed up by a treasure hunting turn, where points are stored to use cards in the 3rd phase. These cards can in turn buff out characters offensively and defensively and allow you to utilize other special skills. Oh, and if you have a save for Uncharted Golden Abyss on your Vita, then many cards actually become more powerful, depending on if you found certain items in Sony Bend's previous game. Essentially, the game boils down not only to battling your opponent's cards, but doing your opponent damage directly by trying to eliminate and work around cards that act as barriers to that goal. It's a dynamic, enjoyable game, and while the AI certainly executes puzzling moves from time to time, you'll still be regularly challenged and will lose often at first. Winning nets you new cards to mix into your deck, card backings, backgrounds, and more. Losing will hopefully earn you some new know-how so that you're a better player during the next go-around. You can work around the AI's occasional deficits by playing online, which is where the game both shines and becomes frustrating. Asynchronous play is popular on mobile devices, Vita included, but I'm still annoyed that it's the only option in games like this. Fight for Fortune utilizes a strange mixture of the PlayStation Network's messaging system with in-game move delivery, and it works fine when you have a friend on your friends list that you want to challenge directly. And while you can still play locally by passing the Vita back and forth, I was never able to make the game's random ranked and unranked matchmaking work. It could be because the game's simply not well populated with players yet, but when you get an error message over and over again with no explanation, it tends to grate. Either way, playing the game live would have been ideal, but it's simply not an option in Fight for Fortune. At $5, Fight for Fortune requires little investment, yet there's lots to do. There are unlockables galore, trophies to collect, and, if multiplayer picks up, a reason to come back for more beyond those initial perks. If anything, Fight for Fortune is a sign that Sony and its fully owned developers are willing to try new things, create smaller games, and attempt to flesh out its exclusive universes beyond the core series. And Fight for Fortune is a successful effort in doing just that. For more on all things PlayStation 3, PlayStation Vita, and PlayStation Network, keep it tuned to IGN.